My first interaction with Fnatic was actually, I was part of one of the manager's side projects there. I was, I guess, a type of side hustle of his. He was managing the official squad for Fnatic in Heroes of New Earth. And we were kind of like a pet project for him. I think a project that he thought could maybe go somewhere. I don't know how or why he was talent scouting, because I don't think he was particularly great at the game. I don't think he believes that either. I'm sorry, Daniel. But he had like, I guess, an eye for talent or an eye for people or something, because he brought a really nice team together, found some cool people. Maybe it was pure chance. And eventually we did a merge with Fnatic because their squad was doing worse than we were. I think they were looking to do changes, and then we were maybe, you know, just jumping on this chance. I think that's how I remember it. Like, we were jumping on the chance to move up from no salary to some salary, and we signed our first contract. I think it was $200 a month, complete ripoff. But nonetheless, I had something to show at home. Yeah, and that was kind of my first, and I was blissfully unaware of, you know, the goings-ons. I was happily paying, you know, big percentage of my prize pool for honestly almost no good reason, but they did borrow us laptops for the first DreamHack, which was like, okay, and org did something. Yeah, it was just nice, I think, to have $0 for what you're doing, to having some money, and it just helped me a lot to ease my parents' concerns, but also just maybe telling myself that, you know, I can do this full time and not feel bad about it, or not feel stressed about it. I definitely think the owners have the most responsibility to bear in Fnatic. I think they had some idea of how to run a business and what they were doing. But I do think that they had pretty ill intent towards anybody they employed almost. I think maybe it was worse with Sam than it was with Anne. But to me, Sam, he was nothing but a bad actor in the space. Well, it started going wrong, our relationship, Anne, Sam and me, when I found out that they had, I had basically been paying my own salary back then from prize money that we'd earned. I'd been giving them the cut of that, and then I found out that the salary I was making yearly was less than what I'm giving them, so I'm paying them money to promote them. And they were giving me such a hard time, giving us such a hard time as a group to increase salary. It was only because we had recently had Hani join the team that we're also arguing for a salary raise, because he came with more knowledge, more experience, and also just more self-worth. We were still living blissfully unaware that they're making money on us, and like, we didn't do math, first of all, but second of all, there's like a lot more to it. They were making, I would say, good money on their org, and then the way they were treating everybody pretty bad from the top down, like almost everybody in the whole company, was something that also became apparent to me, I think, after the first year or so. And since then, it became very, very difficult to speak to them. There would be continuous moments throughout my time there where you could just tell they don't really care about you or your feelings. You're just there to do the thing for them, and if you're not doing that, you're beyond expendable. But it's not just that, they're not there to help the players. They were not there to help players whatsoever, which is what an organization is supposed to do. I mean, as a baseline, right? Is there to try and make life a bit easier for players. And they did a lot of things that made it harder. I mean, bad boot camps. The TI4 boot camp in England was a super horrible experience. I mean, it even topped the experience that we had the year before, which was also really bad. We went to Serbia when they were trying to save money. And this is TI3 boot camp, and we only had 2 rooms with AC. So I had to sleep in a living room with no AC. And that was like a whole month and stuff. And again, it was in the name of Fnatic saving bucks. And they would always lie. They would not tell you the truth, always circumvent. Just hard to get information. It was just a drag, like a huge drag. Everybody, I think, knew to some extent what was going on. And you just had to bicker and bite to get a little bit from them. And what we were always given was very disappointing. So when we got to TI4 bootcamp, it was even worse. One vivid memory is asking Sam to turn off the Wi-Fi because they're having a barbecue party while we're having official games in our room. And he says no. And he says something that the party is for us, but obviously it's not for us because we have games and we're playing for you and your org. But he was, yeah, you know, he was DJing, he was busy, of course, very nonchalant and just a dick, honestly. Like, he was a huge dick. But there's more to it. The conditions were bad. They were also dropping the ball and like on many other things and making us kind of look bad and suffer a bit in the eyes of the community because of their bullshit. and their way of handling things. So I'm very happy I didn't stay for longer than I did, and I'm also happy for the lessons and the people I met in Fnatic. My time at Cloud9, honestly, from a organizational point of view, it was quite good. I mean, very good. I really liked Jack. He was very honest and transparent whenever I spoke with him, and I never felt slighted or that anything shady was going on. I think he was one of the few back then that was practicing I mean, it's not fully transparent, but it's really rather transparent way of doing business and talking to people. It was quite pleasant, like working with Jack. I will also be touching on it in the book a lot about my time in C9 and what it was kind of like. It was, for me, it was one of the big triggers. It almost made me quit the game. After we lost that TI, I thought that was it for me. I didn't think I wanted to do this anymore. It was such a toxic experience. And it had to do, yeah, with people and people's egos. And I think the worst that this competition and the video game brings out in you, if you let that flourish in an environment, it kind of grows into something even worse. It turns into more toxicity, like a new level of fragile ego and in general negativity. I stepped into this with another Danish player and we came in as two new guys, and the atmosphere and the environment was already off the charts in terms of like how bad it was. And it only continued to get worse, and it's very hard not to get sucked into it when it's like this constantly and it's all around you. And yeah, it made me a very negative person for a while, and it just, everything sucked about the game, like it was no longer fun. And I think that was, you know, people having their issues, and these guys had their own issues, and they had also grown each other's issues into something much bigger together. Yeah. I learned a lot in Cloud9. Certain things were retaught to me, things I've already said before and I think I knew, but stuff like atmosphere matters. How much you trust each other will affect how you play. Personal bond and so on translates directly into the game. Yeah, I mean, now it's maybe common knowledge, but back then I was being told in that team, no, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't affect me, and so on. And I also learned that a lot about people's habits and the way, there's tons of ways to be aggressive or negative. That is not just yelling bad things at somebody, because these guys were the masters of passive aggressiveness. And it was not tackled, you know? So for me, it was also, I could never exist in this environment again. So for me, that was never a thing, as in passive aggressiveness was not allowed to stay. My time in C9 was horrible for other reasons. It was just Dota reasons, and the team and the people there, like the atmosphere. But I'm quite happy I went through it. I'm quite happy I went through Fnatic, C9, all of it. I wouldn't be where I am today if not for these things. I wouldn't know the people I know today if not for this. So yeah, happy I went through it. Happy to never be there again. To me, there's a pretty big focus on mental health in the world right now, as in it's talked about a lot. I deal with a lot of my stresses myself by coming to my games and playing, and it's usually always been a pleasant experience for me. I do think a lot of measurements are being taken so that people continue to have a nice and a good experience. But I do think it's a very difficult time also. The internet is becoming a bit unstable. It's never been maybe fully stable, and it's always been able to be scary and dark and so on. But now I think it's proven to be a contributing, sometimes even determining factor on people's mental well-being. I think it's worth looking at whether or not it's making it better or worse for you, your habits, you know? But I do think esport and video gaming, I mean, I kind of pile it together here. I do think it's overall very beneficial to people's mental well-being overall. But for some, I think it's worth evaluating whether you need something else also in your life to balance things out, you know? Because I do think for some, it's making it worse.